Longhorn Football Channel. Surprise! I'm here. It is a Saturday edition. This is why you subscribe to the channel, because when you subscribe to the channel, you get the notifications that you get to know, like, oh, snap, it's Saturday. No need for me to watch Premier League soccer. I can go ahead and watch the Texas Longhorns and see what's going on with that. So, welcome back to the Texas Longhorn Football Channel. I am your host, Anwar Richardson. And guess what I'm going to be talking about today on this Saturday? How about some scrimmage notes? How about some inside information as to what happened in today's scrimmage? So make sure you do a couple of things. Make sure you hit like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Won't be here for a long period of time, but just enough for us to have a good, fun conversation. And again, surprise, it's a Saturday. So listen, today, Texas, the Longhorns, they had their scrimmage. They ended up having it at 9:30 in the morning, ends up when the scrimmage gets started. Steve Sarkisian had said that he planned to do it around 2:30 in the afternoon today in order to get the team prepared for Rice, to get prepared for kind of that kickoff kind of stuff. But it looks like they got moved up to the morning. Maybe that'll be something that happens this up next Saturday for the next scrimmage. I also know that there's a lot of things going on this afternoon as far as places that Sark's got to be, different places, appearances that other people on the team have to be for NIL purposes. So it's a busy Saturday for everyone. But I'll give everyone, let's start with the positive. The positive is, so far, knocking on wood for your Longhorns, they escaped without any injuries this Saturday. Again, knock on wood, but so far we haven't heard of anything to that effect. So that is always the most positive news that one could have after having one of these kinds of scrimmages. And so if they keep that momentum up, remember, last year, scrimmages that happened, I mean, that's when Isaiah Nayer goes down. And it's like, boom, it's done for the year. There's other injuries are like, done for the year. So far, so good as far as the injury progress, as far as the injury notes are concerned. Now, here becomes your big question. Who ruled the day? Like that's exactly what you're going to want to know. That's exactly the question that you're going to ask. And as I get ready to get into that, just understand a couple of things. When in these kind of situations, always going to be winners and losers. It's one team that's going against the other, but they're all on the same team. So there's a lot of familiarity that is there. But to get to that, and I can give you a drum roll for that one, the defense. Now, when I tell you what the defense did, don't naturally go negative and start panicking. Do not actually go negative. Do not start panicking on this portion of it. Because remember, you're always going to have winners and losers. And that's the hard thing when you have these scrimmages and you start figuring out like how the conversations, it's easy to think, oh, one team won when the other one's lost. Well, collectively, everyone wins in this scenario, right? So, but right now, as relates to this Saturday, once again, the defense won the day. From what I was told, and of course, a little bit of Jeff Ketchum was told as well, because I say a little bit, he was told this as well. So don't want to be disparaging at all. The defense had a really good time. I was told that the front seven really, really gave the offensive line fits on Saturday. I was told that the defensive line itself really gave them a lot of fits on Saturday. I heard that this was something in a situation where that defense played extremely well. And this is the second straight week that this has happened. Like, this is the second straight week that this has happened. This happened last week in the first scrimmage. Then, of course, when we heard about the turnovers that occurred, and we've heard about the interception and of course the fumble. And that the good part so far coming out of this scrimmage is I'm not hearing anything about turnovers. I'm not hearing anything about that difficulty on that portion of the side of the ball. Now, all I really am hearing so far is that the offense was able to get down into the red zone, but they just weren't able to score enough. And that seemed to be the time where the defense was actually standing up. And that seemed to be the time where, and by the way, Blake, I know you're behind the scenes. On my end, sometimes it's freezing a little bit. Am I okay on your end because on my end it looks like I go in and out sometimes. But if you give me a thumbs up, then we're good. Okay, that's all right. All right. Well, it looks like we're caught up now. So let's continue going. So they were able to move it down, but when the red zone is really when the defense stood up, and the red zone was kind of like that time where that defense is. So again, between the 20s seemed to be not an issue for Texas, but on multiple occasions they just weren't able to stick it in. So it ended up being a little bit of a frustrating day for the offense. There's again, I was told the defensive line for most of that day was in the backfield, and so that probably played a huge part as far as the lack of success. But do understand this. And what I'm about to tell you is not um, uncommon, which is during this portion of camp, it's often typical for the defense to be ahead. Just because the defense knows what's coming, so you got to understand like they know what's coming, they know the play calls, like they got all of that, so it's easier to make those plays when you know, like, all right, I know I heard it. I see the cards up. I know exactly what's coming. So it's not an uncommon thing. And that's why I'm saying don't overreact. Don't panic. Don't fret and don't say, oh my God, the offense is not doing this, and Quinn Ewers is not doing this, and the offensive line is not this, and oh my God, like where do we go from here? Like, no, it's not going to be any of that. Don't do any of that. It's a very typical thing for this kind of thing to occur. Here's what you should be encouraged about, though. For all the questions that were being asked as to this defensive line, this defensive front, can they be effective? Can they be effective in the middle? How do they replace certain guys like Keandre Coburn and Moro Jomo, right? The questions about the edge and what they're going to do there, and the questions at linebacker, those things about the front seven, like what was going to happen. Second straight week, we hear about the front seven doing extremely well. So that to me is the thing you got to say, okay, now if they can build off of this for the next couple of weeks, then all of a sudden now when you get into Rice, you can kind of unleash them. And then when you take that trip to Tuscaloosa in week 2, then you know for sure that you got a defense that can travel, right? And so that becomes, I believe, the thing with that. And I hear President El Presidente fired the OC. Well, good luck with that one, because we know that one's not going to happen. So good stuff as far as that is concerned. There were a little bit of positive notes, but not a ton. A few little positives that we can talk about as far as that is concerned. A.D. Mitchell apparently catches a touchdown pass, kind of a tippy-toe pass in the end zone, but A.D. was able to bring that down. Xavier Worthy has a spectacular grab during that scrimmage. I was told it was a tip ball. Xavier Worthy is able to kind of come down with the ball as he's falling down, one-handed catch. So that was probably the most spectacular catch, of the day. And I know you guys are going to ask about the backup quarterback position. Of course, you're going to ask me about the backup quarterback position. How can we not discuss the backup quarterback position? So what it looks like Malik and Arch were splitting the second team reps on Saturday. It's only worthy of noting because it looked like Arch last week was playing a lot with the threes. And so it looks like this week he got a lot more run with the twos. So they were both able to kind of get a little bit of an equal look as far as that is concerned. Again, nothing I would make too much of at this point. And I wouldn't say, oh my God, Arch is shooting up the depth charts or anything to that effect. Like I wouldn't read too much into that one, other than, hey, he got a chance to run with the twos and wanted to see what he had. Now the thing is, from either quarterback, I'll start with Malik. The good news is didn't hear anything about any turnovers from a Malik perspective. So he was able to seemingly clean that up from last week, because that seemed to be an area of concern for Steve Sarkisian, and an area that he just did not want to see that again. So that ended up being a good thing for Malik. The only thing that is related to Malik is that there was not a moment where there was a standout moment for him. Now, that being said, with Arch, last week he had that 80-yard run, running 20 miles an hour, that they have them, timed on the GPS. Now, on the flip side is Arch didn't really have anything that anyone viewed as spectacular this week. So neither quarterback. That's why I was like, does not make much out of either one of this. Neither quarterback just did anything to light the world on fire. So both of them were kind of solid, but again, a lot of this had to do with how well the defense played. And so, and by the way, Mike, no, Sark isn't doing a presser. I think the earliest that Sark might speak might be on Monday, if all goes well. But there's nothing as of today that we have on the books as far as when Sark's going to speak to the media again. Might be Monday at the earliest, but again, don't know that for gospel truth. I got to wait on that. So either way, as far as the quarterbacks are concerned, there's nothing really spectacular new to report as relates to that. One of the notes that Ketch had from one of his sources that he spoke to, and Ketch is on family duty today, so that's why Ketch is there. He was trying to hang around as long as he could, and he was trying to be a part of the video, but at some point he had to go be a family man and be there for his daughter. I told him, don't worry about it. I've got it covered. My kid is at home. He's watching soccer. We're more than okay. So, but one of the things that one of his sources told him is that, and it's just a quote: Cedric running back will start at running back before the season is finished. Now, that's what was told to Catch. And so at some point on tomorrow, or I say tomorrow, these days all run together. At some point on a Saturday, on Monday, let me get it straight. At some point on Monday, he'll have to kind of expand on that and what his source had told him as relates to that. Like, we do know that Cedric Baxter obviously was getting some run with the ones this week and getting ones in the last scrimmage. But seemingly Cedric Baxter continues to do well. But I did hear that at least in short yardage situations, that I did hear the name Jaden Bloom. I did hear the name Keelan Robinson as far as short yards. Now, I didn't hear anything about any of those guys just going ham for a long run. But I did hear, at least within the short yardage realm, that they did, they both did well. It was a lot of thud today. So, a lot of thud, not really much tackling as relates today is concerned. Again, they did a lot of goal line, a lot of red zone work. But again, the defense had a lot of success within the red zone. And overall, as I go through my list of things that I was told, overall, something to be, again, excited about. Overall, the ball protection seemed to be pretty well on the offense side of the ball. Like, didn't hear anything about the turnovers. Like, turnovers was a thing last week. Didn't hear much about that this week. So I think that's an area of improvement that Stark can look back and say, all right, you can check that box as far as ball security is concerned. Like, he even said on, I think it was Friday, he said he understands turnovers are going to happen, but it's just how they happen ends up being the kind of the big issue. So they didn't really have that big thing to worry about. And so that's one of another positives to take from it. And then Jordan Whittington was a participant in practice. He has been participating all week, but he had his arm in a wrap, but he was definitely participating, and he was a go as far as that concerned. So it kind of wraps up a little bit of that. Next week, what they're going to do on next Saturday is it's going to be kind of like a game day kind of situation. So everything's going to be geared towards game day atmosphere, game day environment, just getting them mentally prepared on what to do, so that the running out of the tunnel kind of situations. They're going to be planning to be in the stadium, of course. All those kind of works that it's going to be more game simulation than that. Today, the big thing and the big part of today, and then we'll learn of this as it goes along. This ends up being more of a depth chart kind of day. This ends up being a day where, okay, this is like your final chance to do whatever it is that you needed to do to solidify where you're going to be on the depth chart. Because then after that, as they start going into next week and start kind of getting into a little bit of the Rice preparation, Sark said they don't want to go too far in advance with the Rice preparation, because then it becomes a little bit stale. So but this, as they starting to get a little bit closer, because by next week, I mean, guys, we're talking about essentially 2 weeks away. We got 2 Saturdays away from kickoff at this point once you subtract this one. So at that point, you start getting into a little bit more of the Rice prep, and then because of that, then you'll go into practices. And that's when guys that have to assume their roles, first team, second team, scout team, all that kind of stuff. So as the week progresses, as we get past this weekend and as next week progresses, we'll start hearing a little bit more as to where guys are in the depth chart, the pecking order, and we know, like, is that something that they're going to release right away? Probably not. A lot of times the depth chart isn't officially released. A lot of times not until that Monday, until game week. Usually that's when the depth chart is released. So you'll probably officially have one on that Monday before the Rice game. Is usually when that's something that would happen. But there's been times they haven't released a depth chart. They don't necessarily do it every single week. And if people start asking too much about it, then sometimes the coaches are like, we're not going to mess with that. But that's when we should have it official. We'll start hearing more, and we'll start hearing some things through practice. But you can kind of, put a calendar on that first Sark press conference Monday leading up to that. Outside of that, that's kind of the main thing as far as what's happened today. It's kind of the main things and the main top speaking points. Now, here's the deal: throughout the day, we're still going to be checking in with our sources throughout the day. We're going to go into. We'll have more of this on Orangebloods. If we get some more information in, more things that we like to talk about, then we'll absolutely break in, whether it's later tonight, whether it's tomorrow. We'll post another video, but just wanted to get out there right now. This is what we have. This is what we know. And we'll keep working on that. We'll keep building on that. So until then, you guys take care. There's the Orangebloods sign right there. Feel free to hit that QR code to get all the things. And then, by the way, just make sure you subscribe to the channel. And then when you subscribe to the channel, please hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and then you'll make sure you get all the updates when we go live. Like I said, we may do it again at some point this weekend, but if not, at the latest, you guys will see me on Monday morning. All right, you guys, everyone take care, be safe, and thank you for joining the Texas Longhorn